Well, welcome to the village, my friends. I think we are channeling our little house on the prairie energy today, taking a step back in time to Canada's Confederation. We are streaming live here at Black Creek Pioneer Village. You know, this is one of Ontario's richest and most varied collections of artifacts, 19th century artifacts around, and you know, they're all placed among the buildings. We're excited to give you a tour. We're going to try some really neat things today. It's going to be an amazing show. This is episode 29 of Here and There. So good to have your company today as we stream live. My name is Anwar Knight. You know, this is all about a little bit of laughter, a little bit of learning, about connection, real-time connection, and we are so glad you could join us and spend some of your time with us today. Now, coming up, it's going to be a busy show. We're going to do the full forecast. We're pushing into, of course, the first full weekend of fall. And should I mention, 3 months today, it's my birthday for starters, and of course 3 months tomorrow to Christmas. Okay, but 3 months, look at that, just around the corner. We're getting set for the holidays. My goodness. Anyway, we'll talk about the fall weather. Certainly feels like that. We have had some very active weather over the last few days. We'll give you all the details you need to know, plus some of the amazing inventions that really were brought to life in the 1860s. I think you'll be surprised. I certainly was. And of course an AKQ. You know what I love about here is that when you come down, with the right wind, you might smell the wood-burning stove in the air, right? And that's what they did. They needed that for heat. They needed that to cook with. So the AKQ, the Anwar Knight query today is, what food is always better when it's homemade? Think about that. For me, it has to be pies. Now, I have to confess, I'm not a huge pie guy, but you give me a homemade pumpkin pie, and I mean with real shredded pumpkin, not the canned stuff. Wow. Sign me up. Or an old-fashioned homemade apple pie. And I'm spoiled. I'm not making it. I have family that's doing it for me, so I'm privileged that way, but nothing beats a homemade pumpkin pie. It's no wonder, actually, I'm not like a pumpkin. It's that time, right? Dare I ask the guys here, Vern, homemade?
Catelli dinner with good cheddar cheese.
Oh, look at you, Ricardo.
Rhubarb pie.
Rhubarb pie. See, so you're a pie guy. Okay, so maybe I got to get my mother-in-law to make you a rhubarb pie because she makes good rhubarb pie. Richard, homemade?
Apple pie with vanilla ice cream.
Oh, yes. Alamo, got to do that.
Take mine back.
Yeah, you know, there is something about apple pie with a scoop of ice cream, but that's the question for today. What sort of dish? It doesn't have to be a dessert. What is it, though, that just always tastes better when it's homemade? And we'll certainly connect with you. But Black Creek Village, Black Creek Pioneer Village, where we're streaming today, still fair conditions, and you know, just such a beautiful landscape here. And the magic is that, you know, they're essentially an open-air museum. 40 historic buildings, there's 10 gardens, and 60 rare and heritage breed animals. You know, this is a real working village. Of course, the farm was the anchor for many families. It provided food and, in many cases, income. And although there may have been a few types of machines, you know, we're talking about the late 1800s, it was horses, it was oxen, and people that were the primary source of power, including these beautiful animals. So Virginia is here at the Berwick Barnyard. And what is the name of this beautiful horse?
This horse's name is Integra.
Integra, my goodness. Now, for those who are familiar with horses, you're probably noticing it's a very large horse. So this is a Clydesdale.
This is a Clydesdale horse.
So Clydesdales would be really the horse of choice back in the day.
Absolutely. There was pretty much the first draft horse across every province in Canada in the mid-19th century.
And how many hours would settlers spend out on, you know, in the fields and working?
Dawn to dusk, 4 in the morning, right till the sun goes down.
Wow, so it's a full day.
It's
and
a
the
full
reality
day.
is, if you didn't eat.
That's right. You didn't eat. Horses didn't eat. Nobody ate.
That's true.
Yeah.
You had to feed your livestock.
That's
now,
right.
how many different animals do you have here at Black Creek?
We have 60 different heritage and rare breeds. Some of those breeds are the Toulouse geese.
Right.
We have Emden geese. We have Rouen ducks. We have
I saw the sheep over there.
The sheep. You have your Border Leicesters, one of the top breeds for heritage, even today.
Be careful, Vern.
I think
we don't want to change the diet of Integra here. But do they get all along together?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're not going to keep tiny ones with big ones. You're going to give them the space they need and the housing they need. So they don't have very different housing. So,
right.
But I mean, in our Berwick barn, we have the goats and we have the horses together, and they get along famously.
And the size of the Clydesdale, I mean, we're very familiar, of course, from that beer commercial that
The
made it
Budweiser?
oh so popular.
Yeah.
It really, I mean, horses are majestic any given time, but there's something really prestigious, it appears to be, with Clydesdales.
They're a unique breed. They're one of the oldest breeds, and you can see by their feathering and their size. They're one of the tallest draft breeds in the world today. Integra here is about 18 hands, and she weighs about 2,020 pounds.
Wow.
So she's a tall one. I believe Ontario has a horse that holds a record at being over 20 hands and 3,000 pounds.
Wow.
So yeah.
And you know, Ricardo, if you wouldn't mind, just show the viewers the size of the feet.
Yeah, we can look at that.
I mean, that's a foot that
We've
you
even
don't
got a
want-
horseshoe
Oh, you have
here.
also a horseshoe there. We'll
Yeah.
get that out. I mean, you don't want that stepping on you.
That's 5 pounds per foot. Yeah. It's 4 times bigger than a racehorse would wear.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Clydesdale
Right?
doesn't matter, not particularly about the weather? Do they
Oh
prefer?
no, because they're a hardy breed and they've been around since they were originally bred in the mid 1700s.
Right.
She wants the grass. She's so hungry.
Yeah.
You want the treats in my pocket is what you want.
They're used to all different types of weather.
They're hardy. They're
Yeah.
bred in the Scottish cold weathers. They came here. The settlers knew they could take the winters.
Right.
So yeah, they're a wonderful breed for working agriculture. They were used for logging. They
Right.
played a significant role in history as far as industrializing our
It's
agricultural
interesting you mention that because, you know, towards the end of the 1800s, there may have been some sort of machinery coming out.
Yes.
But it really was technology, even if it was really basic, that has threatened this breed because
Yes.
a lot of people may not be aware the Clydesdale actually is on the verge of becoming an endangered species. Who knew?
Yeah, Rare Breeds Canada and the Heritage Livestock Canada rates it as vulnerable to risk in in this part of the world.
Yeah.
In Europe, it's considered rare.
Isn't that something?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
just as we're about to move on, who would do most of the chores in a family?
Oh, well, you'd start your chores if you were young in the 19th century. You'd start at the age of 5.
So it'd be the kids would be
Yeah, the
primarily out
kid. Well, when you're little, you're going to do little things like
Right.
look after the rabbits,
Right.
the English lops, because you show your English lops in the Victorian age.
Yes.
And you're going to pick the chickens' eggs because you can do that.
Yes.
But as you got stronger, you were carrying those water buckets around because these
Right.
guys do 30 gallons of water they drink a day. So you're going to get strong arms, and then you're helping in the field. So as you grew stronger,
You did more.
you did more, and you worked with larger animals.
Well, and I guess, you know, truth be told, if you want to make sure your kids are on the straight and narrow, nothing will do that more than a wheelbarrow full of poop from a Clydesdale, right? I mean, you realize that, okay, I know my place.
Yeah.
And that's a reality. Well, beautiful horse. And this is one of the charming things here at Black Creek Pioneer Village. Is that interaction. You know, the kids will love to see some of the animals. So Virginia, thank you so much for your time. I think Integra has earned a treat or two.
Oh, yeah. I think she ate most of them now. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Oh, here we go.
Take care.
All
Have
right.
a great afternoon.
You
in the village.
too. So, you know, the Clydesdales, we're talking about the history going back into the late 1800s. And when we speak about inventions, you know, a lot of it may have been just mechanically driven. You know, later maybe some steam maneuvers happening. But it's interesting because there have been a lot of things that were invented back in the late 1800s. And I wanted to show you one of those. It was the typewriter. So show the image here, Jason, if you could pull this up. It was invented by Christopher Latham Scholes. He perfected it. There were a few other, you know, types of models. Some of them, believe it or not, for a typewriter were as big as a piano, so it wasn't very handy. But he invented the first typewriter that was faster than writing by hand. He was an editor at a newspaper, and he had a number of patents, yet he still struggled financially. So what I found interesting, him and his partner really perfected this typewriter, and you know, Christopher ended up selling his shares or his part of the patent to the Remington Company, and that was the Remington Arms Company, and they ultimately marketed as the Remington typewriter. But he got $12,000 for that, which really, again, we're talking the 1800s. I mean, hallelujah. But get this, his partner said, yeah, I don't think so. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give my patent half for royalties. And as the story goes, it was worth more than $1 million at the end. So you look at 12,000, you know, and then over $1 million. But I thought that was fascinating. Let's say hello to a lot of our viewers joining us today. Oh my, we have so many. Thank you so much. I'm going to scroll all the way to the top here. We have Mary, Lonnie, Elizabeth, John, Joanne, Lois, Donna is watching. Alan saying good afternoon. Nice to see another episode and learn. I appreciate that very much, Alan. And Lois says happy Friday. Lonnie says good afternoon. And Jerry says happy Friday and wishes everybody a great weekend. Don is joining us from Streetsville today. And Rose says hello. We also have Irene. Cindy says peace from Oshawa. Well, thank you for that. And, you know, Alan says he hasn't been here since grade school. I think many of us recall, you know, the grade school trips, and it is certainly worth coming back. And I'm going to highlight a couple of things that they're doing here, especially for the weekend. A good option maybe for the kids, for the family to come out, because it's mainly outdoors, so it's relatively safe. And I'll give you some ideas on that. Kathy says for the AKQ, homemade bread, and my grandmother made the best Chelsea buns. Bread, you know, what would life be without bread? Honestly, right? It's just not worth it. If you couldn't have especially fresh bread. Miranda says she got married in 2017, right here in November at Black Creek. That would be beautiful for sure. And Wendy says, I have to agree with you that homemade pie is the very best. She hates store-bought pies. Catherine says, so nice to see you. Thanks from T.O. P.S. homemade pumpkin pie, apple pie, and rhubarb. So all of us, there we go. So Catherine, when do we come to indulge in all these pies? Lonnie says homemade stew, not with dumplings, but with Yorkshire pudding. Oh, that is very nice. I love that. Oh, Marina says pizza. You know, we had pizza the other night. You have to put some good time to make a good pizza, but you're absolutely right. And also, Bob says corn liquor. Is that legal? Corn liquor, wow, okay. John Shepherd says, beautiful horse. Clydesdales are such gentle creatures. And Kathy says, nothing better than blueberry pie with wild blueberries. Oh, yes, you're absolutely right. My goodness. Anyway, let's continue here. So I want to do a couple of things I wanted to point out. So first of all, you see the greenhouse there as we continue our stroll here. And that is officially the Berwick House. And it was originally sourced from Woodbridge in 1844. And that is where they showcase a very typical middle-class family, a homestead in the 19th century. And the Williams family lived in that house during the 1860s. And it was actually located originally in the village of Berwick, which is now Woodbridge, which is kind of neat. And if you continue along here, we got actually people going in there. Oh, maybe not. But look, you can see the sign. It says the Halfway House. And the reason why it's known as the Halfway House, because it was located exactly halfway between Dunbarton, which today is Pickering, and the St. Lawrence Market in downtown Toronto. So this basically, you know, it was considered a rest stop. When you came here, you would, you know, rest your horses, you get a hot meal. So this would be, you know, akin to what we have, the en route stopovers. But I bet they had better service here. Have you ever been to that en route stop just by Cambridge on the 401 West? Oh, you might as well book a hotel. Forget about a coffee and a bagel and a drive-through. It doesn't happen. So I wonder, and it's interesting here too because you could get a bevy of a sociable nature. They had the tap room inside, and you know, it was pretty common that you'd, as they say, wet your whistle when they stopped by here. But isn't this amazing? You know, if you close your eyes for a moment and you just sort of take in the pictures and sort of paint the complete image of what it was like, you know, in the late 1800s, and you could see maybe a horse wagon coming and that sound of the wheel, and you know, walk in. Of course, if I walked in, everything would be silent and say, who's the funny looking guy? But it'd be really kind of neat. So again, just one of the many buildings. There are 40 here on site that you can explore. So we're going to continue our journey past here. And, you know, Ricardo, if you sort of look right down and show our friends along this pathway. It is really so charming, and when I bring my kids here, I just let them run, you know, and that's the beauty of it all. It's all relatively safe, especially when there's some drier weather. When there's a lot of rain, you want to stick to the boardwalk. But Jerry says, wow, I've not been there in years. Love the horses too. Kathy says, speaking of pies, we took a family drive east to the Big Apple. Oh yes, there's a good spot. And Donna says, apple caramel cheesecake. Okay, now you got me. I'm a cheesecake fan without doubt, so that would be a good option. Bob says fresh turnip soup, and also, CE Snowflake said, OMG, I just turned on the comments and you were talking about Clydesdales, and I see the first comment, a homemade stew. So we've taken you in, right? Let's hop down here. We want to continue our tours. You know, here at Black Creek Pioneer Village, they have a lot of different discovery stations that they do, especially on the weekends, so you can bring the family, and we're going to hop down here and learn, you know, things that they did back in the time. And I should point out the red house and the log cabin. This is the Stong family homes. The log cabin actually is the oldest structure here on the property, dates back to 1816. And this original location was actually the traditional territory of the Wendat, the Anishinaabe Nations, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit. And it's very important to acknowledge that. This is all a part of that story. Truth be told, there is no way that the early pioneers, the European settlers, including the Stongs and others, would have known how to survive a winter without the help from Indigenous people. They are certainly a part of this story, and the land in this vast area was shared and cared for thousands of years prior to settlers arriving. But this is interesting here. Again, you know, you really are taken back to the time, especially, you know, with the dirt ground. But look how well built these log cabins are. You know, you can see the dovetail in the corners. I mean, this is a solid structure, and it's quite something. And Christy is in the dooryard. Hello, Christy.
Hi, good to see you again.
Well, thank you. Yes, indeed. Now, I noted this is the dooryard. We refer to that and not a backyard or front yard. Am I correct?
Exactly, because this is where basically all their houses are, or their structures. They might even have a garden nearby. Yeah, there's a...
This is sort of the hangout. If you're going to come, you're going to do your socialization, this would sort of happen.
You got it. Or even what I'm doing right now, this is my working space too.
Well, you know, especially if it was a hot summer day, you certainly want to get out. And you're spinning something clearly.
Yes.
I will assume it's sheep's wool.
You got it.
So walk me through here. What's the process?
All right, well, first we start with our sheep, right?
Right.
And they have those big, fluffy wool coats.
Yeah.
And we have to shear them, usually in the springtime, using this tool here.
Wow. You know, Ricardo wants a bit of a trim on the beard.
Yeah. Make sure you get a skilled shearer for sure, right?
Yeah, you don't get do-overs.
Yeah.
Oh, there goes your ear.
Exactly.
Wow.
So you give the sheep a nice cuddle,
yeah,
and you shear them. It takes about a half hour if you know what you're doing.
Right.
And then from there, well, you get some wool. Now, this has been cleaned, but you can see it's still very clumpy.
Right.
So to clean it though, you do a task called picking.
Okay.
So you can kind of still see there's some fibers and stuff. So you have to just pick it apart. Easiest tool you have, your hands, right?
Yeah.
So you pick it apart. This is a task that children would do quite easy, right?
Well, Virginia was mentioning if you were younger, you were able to do certain tasks, and as you got older and stronger, you would do, you know, some heavier tasks. So that would be a great thing for kids.
Exactly. So you're basically getting all the knots and all that icky stuff that's on the sheep.
Yeah.
And then from there, you go to your wash cycle. So in a big tub of water and soap, you lay down your wool, but you don't stir it, because if you agitate wet wool, it will turn into felt. So you just let it sit there for about 24 hours.
Right.
Then from there, well, you need your rinse cycle. So you gently lift that up into a new tub of clean water, and let that sit for about 24 hours. Now from there, you have two choices.
Right.
Really depends on your style.
Yeah.
If you want white wool like this, you just lift it out, set it out to dry.
Just put it out in the sun and let evaporation.
Exactly.
Right.
It might take a few days depending on the weather. But if you want to be very stylish, you can see Lots of different options here on our table.
wow.
So you can dye your wool. So you're basically boiling it with a certain dye. And a lot of people would either grow their own plants or just forage around the area for natural
For
dyes.
colors.
So you can see goldenrod for yellow,
Amazing.
dandelion. This one, in fact, this is dandelion.
Isn't that something?
Yep. Also, we have a lot of these around. These are black walnuts.
Right.
So when you open them up, it's a dark brown color. Looks like this.
The walnuts are falling on the tree as
You
we
got
speak.
it, just on cue. I know, they're everywhere right now. Also, you might be growing this in your garden, rhubarb. So of course, you eat the stalks, very tasty.
Well,
but
for pie.
the leaves, not so much. They're actually poisonous.
Is that right?
Yeah, you don't want to eat them. You'll get a sore tummy. So instead of just throwing it out, you don't want to waste it. You can use this for a dye, and you'll get a nice green color as
Interesting.
well. So again, those are things you can get from around your farmstead.
I would have thought the rhubarb would have given you a red color, but it's just the leaf that you're using because they would be eating the stalk.
You can actually use the stalk for kind of that reddish purplish
Right.
dye too, but if you want to eat that first, then go for your green leaf there.
Isn't that something? Wow.
Yeah.
This
Yes.
is really quite amazing to see where it comes from and how it ends up.
Yeah, exactly. Quite some impressive
Look at this.
technology. So just with my foot, I'm pedaling it. I'm feeding the wool into, this is called a flyer with a bobbin.
Right.
So that is what's actually winding and spinning it in that way.
And would they, you know, typically would they be making as much as they could and then when time permits they will actually knit, or they do it as they go?
It really depends on the context and the person, what other tasks you have going on. Again, there's a lot of work living on a farm, so you squeeze it in whenever you can.
Well, I know for starters, Vern would just like the felt underwear. He wouldn't want the yarn. He likes it really, that fuzzy stuff. But that is wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, not a
Isn't that
problem.
something? So when you bring the kids down, this is one of the discovery stations that they'll be able to see. And, you know, it just gets all the energy going in terms of creativity. And it sort of pulls back a curtain on the way life was. So this is another great example. Thanks again for that. We're going to continue our journey here as we stream live at Black Creek Pioneer Village. But first, I want to get into the forecast. And we'll let you know that the weather, yeah, we can go this way, Ricardo. You also have the little sheep in the background there. And I'll let you know that the weather is brought to you by the Big Blue Marble Podcast. It's about undeniable stories about our changing planet and the amazing people that are trying to save it. And I wanted to point out one thing here, although you can see the sheep. Hey guys, look what I got. I got this from you. I want to point out this building here, the Lasky Emporium, because, you know, that was really a center point for so many reasons. You know, when you're in a village, you need a store, but not only a store, also, of course, a post office. So this was a vital connection for any village. It served as both the general store and the post office, and this originated in King Township. It was owned and operated by Henry Baldwin. But down the road in that same hamlet was a rival general store, and when Henry died, his competitor, Benjamin Harris Rolling, he became the only store and post office in town. And what's really significant, Mr. Rolling was one of the first black postmasters in Canada. So you see, there's a real significant contribution to that village, and a big part of history. So I thought that was very cool. Now each weekend, Black Creek Pioneer Village, as we continue our stroll, has the discovery stations. They also offer family tours, including a time traveler's boot camp, which I thought was neat. It's a fun opportunity, you know, to time travel. So what happens, all the trainees learn everything that they need to know before they take that mission to the past. If you want more information, www.blackcreek.ca. Here are some of the other buildings that we're passing through, and we're actually going to pick up the pace just a wee bit because I want to get to Anthony down the road here. But this is so cool, you know, as you're walking along, you're seeing all these different structures. All of them have a unique story, and I think that's what makes it extra special. So Penny Lynn is saying this is very nostalgic and peaceful. And also Margaret says, good afternoon from St. Catharines. Kathy said they were so heavy to lift those old typewriters to move. Yeah, you're right. It did weigh a lot, but I guess it made things easier if you're especially an editor of a newspaper. And Donna says, goatee, question mark. Well, last week the viewers voted. You know, we were talking about my little stint in Hollywood North on that film shoot where they asked me to shave my goatee, and overwhelmingly viewers said leave it bare. So I'm not growing it back for the next little while. I hope you approve. I don't know. Yes, some people do, some don't. Laura says homemade pie for sure, so we're going to hop up here. And Tammy says, one of my favorite places to visit. I'm certain I was a pioneer in my past life. I think that's a good thing. That's a great attribute for sure. You can leave that there, Vern, that's okay. And John says homemade beer. Now you're talking. And Marg says, enjoyed seeing Black Creek Pioneer Village. It has been a while since I visited the great heritage place. And Elsa mentions apple pie. So let's, oh, Barb says hello from Sudbury. Enjoy all of your shows. Well, hey, it's great to have you from Sudbury. Thank you for that. Now, we are just in front of the tinsmith shop. I'm just going to hop here if that's okay. And this is quite something because, you know, we talked about the Lasky Emporium, a general store, but this was also vital because of a lot of the tools, you know, whether it's a scoop or some things for the lanterns was all made from a tinsmith, right?
Exactly, and actually you can kind of think of tin as being like the plastic of the 1860s. A lot of the things that you would make at home or have at home that were made out of plastic, you'd have out of tin in the time.
I wish we would do that now.
I mean, yeah.
Get rid of plastic and bring back the tin. So walk me through some of the things here.
So we have a couple of different really important objects. One, of course, is this lovely candle holder. Any idea why we would have a metal candle holder?
Well, I would just for safety. So
well, it's partially for safety. The other thing, though, is that many candles at the time were still made out of beef fat, and mice love to eat beef fat. So by putting it in a tin thing like this, they can't get it. Yeah.
Cool.
And then we would have things like our cookie cutters here.
Which you can get even today.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I mean, it might be aluminum, but...
Yeah, but they're still quite popular. They're made in a similar way. You take a piece of sheet metal and wrap it around a mold of some sort. We even have things like milk jugs, like this one here.
Look at that.
But one of the most important things, of course, is our barn lanterns.
That's cool.
Anyone want to take a guess as to how long it takes to make a barn lantern?
How long did she say to do the wool? I want to say, I don't know, 24, 30 hours?
No, actually, it's really close to the wool. It's only about 10 hours of work.
Oh, that's not bad.
But 6 of those hours is doing the intricate piercing work that you see here.
Right.
And the piercing is really important because, as you notice today, it's a little windy.
Right.
And by having this rough piercing, it stops the wind from going inside.
Deflecting some of that wind, doesn't blow it out.
Exactly. So it's really important to have something like this at your place.
So in terms of actually punching it out, obviously that was all done by hand.
All done by hand. So we have some machines that could help us to do things like the curvatures of the lanterns themselves, but in terms of the actual piercing, it's all done by hand.
Can you walk me through and do a step or two?
So I'm actually working on a decorative star here.
Right.
But what you can see is I've already started to create some lines within the star, and I've done that with a scratch-all like this one here. So what that's done is it's allowed me to know exactly where, first of all, the center of my piece is, but also allows me to then create these lovely circle designs. All I have to do then is take a small punch that looks like this.
Right.
It's basically like a needle with a flat edge. And then I place it exactly where I need to go. Now with tin, you always have to be careful because you only have one chance at this.
There are no do-overs, right?
There's no do-overs with tin.
Yeah.
So place it exactly where I need it to go, and I'm using my special mallet. This is a rawhide mallet, so it's not as hard as metal.
Just enough to put a hole.
Exactly. And then I just give it a nice tap, and that's it. And I'll continue making the design over and over and over again. Now you'll notice it makes kind of a big noise. These stores were often known as bang-all shops because of the sound that comes from it.
I hope it's quitting time at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. You don't want to be too noisy, right? But eventually we would create something that would end up looking like this star here.
Now is that a decorative, like Christmas?
Yeah, so this can be a Christmas star. It could also just go as a window ornament. There's lots of different things you can do with it.
Would the settlers ever call a tinsmith to the home to do some sort of work, special work, or no?
Generally not. Most of the time you'd be going to a tinsmith like this one here to get certain things done.
Well, I think that's just fascinating. And you know, a lot of the tin originated in the UK, in Cornwall, England.
Yeah, that's where the main mines were. So all of your sheet metal would have to come from Cornwall in sheets already pre-made. So the tinsmith would just be in charge of manufacturing things out of that sheet metal.
So you have to think about it. So that would all come by ship. But even back then, it was a supply, right? It was almost the Amazon of the 1800s.
Well, in a way, it was.
Right? You would place your order, and the tinsmith would be getting this. It would come by ship. He'd get his orders. Then he'd be able to fulfill other orders of the people in the village.
Exactly.
Just amazing stuff. So again, this is just a few examples. Thank you so much for that,
You're very
Anthony.
welcome.
A few examples of what you can do when you come down here. Always a lot of fun. Again, the website is www.blackcreek.ca if you want to check out more of the event calendar that's going on there. We want to thank them for hosting us. They've been so gracious and a lot of fun. And that's what it's all about. So before we wrap up, I'm just going to scroll down to some of our latest. Yes, I appreciate the Parade of Hearts, by the way. It's that time where, you know, if you like what we're doing, please show your support with the likes and the hearts. Follow the page and share it so we can join in everybody. As mentioned, we have some viewers now out of the Sudbury area. And I should point out about 12 different countries from around the world, which is always really cool. Again, that's the beauty of this. We get to connect. So Rick says, very educational, great demonstration. And Norita says, very impressive about the wool. And Margaret says, I should take over the Rick Mercer show. You'd be fantastic. Oh, that's very kind of you. I think maybe I'll try tinsmithing first. We'll go from there. Barbara says, fascinating, so well presented. And Kathy says, love the wool demo. Thank you so much. Well, guys, I really do appreciate, oh my goodness, we have so many. CE Snowflake says, cool stories about the buildings and who occupied them. Also, Sarah says, thanks for a great and fun history lesson, Anwar. And Kathy adds, another great episode. Love seeing Pioneer Village again. And, oh, says her father had a typewriter similar to that Remington one. So my friends, we're going to wrap it up. We want to say thank you for your support again. Like, love, and share. Follow the page. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, if you're enjoying it, like and subscribe to the channel. If you have questions, we always are open to your comments. We'll try to get back to you. On that note, we're going to say have yourself a wonderful and safe weekend. And I hope you'll join me next week. Where will I be? Well, as the saying goes, here and there. Have a great day, everybody. See you later.